if we aren't vulnerable, even just a little bit when we meet someone, they don't see who we really are, like at our core. And if someone's not seeing who we are at our core, then they really don't know who we are. And then also we have to keep up like this front of who we were pretending to be. It's hard for all of us. And it's hard to kind of step into that and then have enough trust that the people, the women that you're talking to are going to hold what you say kind of in the palm of their hand and keep it there so that it becomes something precious. And my advice is you just kind of you have to do it. And we have to talk and listen really well to what our friends are saying.
Hey guys, I'm so excited for you to check out this episode of the Story Project podcast. But before you do, I wanted to just introduce you to my two guests. Yes, I have two guests on this podcast, and they're actually both very dear friends of mine. Sara Ritchie is the CEO of Dental Flix, bringing extensive experience as an operations manager, event planner, and partnership director. With a strong track record in business organization and crafting strategies for content creators, Sara excels in identifying, negotiating, and managing strategic partnerships. Her expertise has significantly advanced Dental Flix's growth and industry presence. Outside of work, she enjoys reading, practicing yoga, and traveling with her daughters. My second guest is Josey Sewell. Josey's journey spans from hygienist to executive to entrepreneur. As the creator of the Dental Operating System and Joyful People, she is committed to transforming dental practices for the better. Beyond her professional accomplishments, she is a devoted wife and mom with a love for mountains, hiking, and tacos. Sounds good. Always seeking adventure on the trails and in life. So hang out with us today, and you're going to love this one. Welcome to the 25th episode of the Story Project podcast. I am your host, Joanna Scott, and I'm so excited for this conversation with two very dear friends of mine, Josey Sewell and Sara Ritchie. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for
happy to be here.
I want to begin by just sharing how all three of us met. And I believe I met both of you at the same time at the Delivering Wow Summit in 2018, or at least like in person. That was kind of our first, interaction. And it was also one of the first dental like CE events that Josh and I had ever been to. And Sara, you were running it as COO, Delivering Wow. I know, Josey, you were speaking. And I don't know, we just clicked. Like you two were just so friendly and warm and welcoming to me. And I feel like we had like very like synergy right away, when you meet people and that just kind of naturally happens. And what's been so amazing is that this friendship has really turned into a sisterhood. And I thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to talk about how to nurture female friendships in your 40s. And just on this podcast, share some powerful perspectives and thoughts on how high capacity driven, very busy women like the three of us can nurture their friendships instead of neglecting them. So, okay, before we dive into the actual episode, I thought we'd have some fun and do some icebreaker questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, Josey, you're up first. So what's the best decision you've ever made?
Who I married.
Good, probably a really good answer.
Yeah.
Okay, Sara, aisle, middle, or window seat?
Window every time.
Okay.
Really? Even like a long flight?
Yeah, okay. Then I can like put the pillow again and then like fall asleep on the window.
I have a follow-up question.
Always a window girl.
What if you need to use the restroom? You are stuck.
Yes.
No,
I'm in the aisle.
Excuse me.
You just hold
like, you get them up because I have to go see. I always choose the aisle if the flight is longer than like 2 hours or 3 hours because I don't like to get people up. So I miss the window, but I like the freedom to get up and down.
Totally.
Yeah, I just flew back from Salt Lake City and it was a 4.5-hour flight and I sat in my window seat there and back. And midway through, I tapped and said in my sweet Southern voice, "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom." And both times it was men and they stood up and I went to the restroom and came back and tapped on their shoulder again and let me sit down. No problem.
It's amazing. Good
Sarah, do you also send your food back if it's wrong?
It depends. If it's
Sorry,
something
Joanne, I
I
hijacked
really,
it.
really, really want to eat, then if I'm like really excited about the food in the restaurant, then absolutely. But I'm
Okay.
but I will tell them like I am excited about this. But if it's something that I'm like, it's not a big deal, then I don't worry about it.
Okay, Josey, email, phone call, or text?
Text.
Okay.
Well, I mean, because I'm not super responsive on the other ones, so text is like my fastest response. I don't know why I feel like email's like formal, so I have to like really think about the responses. So it's text for me.
Okay. Does it scare you if all of a sudden your phone's ringing and you're like, why are they calling me? That happens
No,
many times.
I mean, it depends on who's calling. Most of the time, it's like I'm excited for somebody to call me randomly, but I definitely, if your number's not saved, I don't answer. It goes to voicemail.
Okay. Sarah, what's your drink order at a coffee house?
Oh, right now it's a pumpkin spice latte because it's pumpkin season. At Christmas, it's going to be a peppermint mocha. And anytime else during the year, it's either going to be probably chai tea or an Americano.
Ooh, I used to drink Americanos. Josey, which song makes you dance no matter what?
Oh, I have so many that it's probably going to be really good question. I'm trying to think of like something cool that's at the tip of my tongue and it's not. It's probably going to be anything with like a beat like some EDM or something, that I'm going to like get into it, but I can't there's never enough remakes of the Don't Stop Believin' song that makes me, like that one's always fun.
Yeah,
You can't not do
yeah.
that one. So
I'm going to answer for both of you because we have all cut up on a dance floor to some serious 90s music.
Is this true?
oh yes,
I've
this is
got
true.
pictures. Yeah, I've got
Yes.
pictures of the three of us, and then Joanna and I at our events too, cutting up to some serious 90 music, like pretending like
Yeah.
there's nobody else around us. It's
Oh,
just us
yeah.
and the
I
music.
could
And
I could I could answer that for Sarah because I saw her come alive to Salt and Pepper on the dance floor.
absolutely.
And then we told the DJ we were like 90s rap and R&B is what we want all day. And that was one
Yeah,
of the most fun nights ever. So thank you,
yeah.
Sarah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Sarah's also a very good dancer. Like, I don't know, and
Oh
she's
gosh.
very fun to dance with. You kind of
Yes.
just get lost in a little bubble on the dance
I
floor.
get lost because I can't dance. So it's just like I'm just out there pretending that we've got moves.
Yeah, yeah. That's always been my favorite part of the DWOW Summit. It's like, I get to dance with Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah,
my favorite part too. And it's over. So we're like, woo, celebrating.
great. Awesome. Well, that was fun. Thank you, ladies. Well, let's dive into this episode. I'm a firm believer that finding a handful of friends and truly sharing life authentically with, let's say, a few can be more fulfilling and I don't know, probably fulfilling is the best word, than if you have a ton of acquaintances. So, Sarah, I'd love to hear how you and Josey first met. Like, tell us the story about your friendship.
Josie and I first met, it was late 2017. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and I think our first like meeting was Zoom like this. We had several Zoom meetings first, working with Delivering Wow. And then the first time we met in person was with you, Joanna, when we were at Delivering Wow Summit.
Okay.
And one of the things for Josie, I loved her aura, her persona. I was always just attracted to that. And then also her love of team health and culture, which she also guided me into that direction. It was interesting to me that I had my experience in the dental world and then as a office manager and hearing Josie talk. And I was always like, just tell me more, tell me more. And she taught me everything that I know. So I was thrilled to learn from her and to listen to her. And then our duo became a trio when we met you at Summit. And then it also was just really great synergy. I've always felt like our hearts connected, the three of us. And we just kind of continued that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Josey, what were some of the things that drew you and Sarah, like, that just kind of like instantly connected you guys?
What I love about Sara is that she just is a go-getter and she's incredibly ambitious and she has this hunger for learning and for growth. And I just love that about her. But what I also love is Sara is one of the most resilient and strong and gritty people, but she doesn't like show, like, it's not like she's demanding attention, but as you get to know Sara, you see that she's actually the magic kind of behind the scenes that just makes things happen. And I always love and love learning from people like that. She's super organized. But I think that what has really drawn me to Sara and the longevity of it is who she is as a woman and as a mom. And so, I think motherhood is probably our greatest calling for each of us. And then we also have these careers, but Sara has done it on her own. And to see her be this incredible career woman, but now she has two adult daughters and she has such a closeness with them that every time she talks about her kids, I learn something about being a mom and I want to like be more like Sara in my relationships with my kids. And so I think that we were both very growth oriented. We were both in dental. We both loved events. We both loved culture and team and all of these things. And we were on this like personal journey. But I think that what has continued to bind us is what kind of mom am I and how am I showing up as a woman in the world? And I just always want to be more like Sara and more like Joanna. So I'm just constantly learning from both of you.
Yeah, I agree so much. Sarah's relationship, we'll get into kind of like her role with her daughters later on in the podcast, but I completely agree just as far as like how she has raised two daughters to be so independent and beautiful and strong and pursuing their callings, but also how close she is with them. With my son moving off to college like last week, that's just such an example for me that it can happen with your adult children. Well, I want to mention, I love that both of you are avid learners, educators, and leaders. And that doesn't happen overnight. It's a consistent mission you both have to pursue just personal and professional growth everywhere that you go. It's something that really stands out to me about both of you. Sara, I love that you read between 75 and 100 books every year. I do not. Good job. So, can you speak to the power of surrounding yourself with other women who are passionate about learning and growing?
So you said that, but you are passionate about learning and growing, just in a different way. For sure.
Maybe not 75 books.
Yeah, not 75 books, but in a different way.
Yeah.
I think this is really important, especially as, we're all three of us are in our 40s. I just turned 49, so I have a year until I'm in my 50s. And it's very important to me to be around women who are constantly lifting each other up, who are thinking about the next thing, who are, listening to somebody recommended a podcast to me the other day. And I was like, I've never heard of that. That's a great idea. And so I always remember my parents telling me as a child and as a young adult, you are who you hang out with. And I thought that was the most ridiculous piece of advice I'd ever heard. And it actually like angered me at times. Like, no, 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 we're not. Like, I'm my own person. I'm going to be who I want to be. But it's so true. And if my mom is listening to this, you were right. It's just very true. We are who we hang out with. So if we are with people who are stagnant and are completely okay with who they are, we're not learning, we're not being curious, we're not, growing. They're not growing. And if we're around women, and that's one of the things I love about both of you is I learn from you guys all the time about life and work and who we are as women and our kids and like as we grow older. And if we don't have that, then we're just in relationships that don't really mean much to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I've often found myself over the years, really, if I'm being honest, like neglecting my female friendships because other things took priority or just get too busy. And I felt like I didn't have the time. Josey, can you speak to the challenge of being a busy professional, entrepreneur, I was going to say, I won't say it, badass woman. Like, I don't know. Some women like that. Some women don't.
I like it. It's good. I'll take it.
But also like equally a devoted mom to your kids and family. So what if we feel like we don't have time left for friendships? Like, what do we do if we're kind of stuck?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that it's also different phases in life. We will need different things. And so when my kids were little, it was easier for me to have women friendships with kids who were little because we could go to the park together or we could relate to, oh my gosh, I didn't sleep last night, or how do you handle this teething thing? Or I'm not sure that he's developing like he should. And so I think part of it is like different seasons of life, we will need friends for different reasons. I was not thrilled when I turned 40. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's here. And yet you hear people talk a lot about turning 40 and actually how much freedom you feel. And it's like you feel more like you can just be yourself. And I think that that has been true for me. And I actually love this phase of life because I am who I am. And if you don't like that, then we just don't have to be friends. And so I think that there becomes this like more acceptance of who we are. And it's just like it becomes less about the number of friends and more about the quality of friends. But what I would say is, I know that I'm a better wife. I know I'm a better mom. I know I'm a better entrepreneur when I am personally fulfilled. And for a long time, I would tell myself, I just need my husband to do that. I don't need female friends. I don't have to do that. And yet, I recognized something was missing in my life. And as I started to nurture and make time for those friendships, I recognized how much more fulfilled I felt and how much happier I was. And so, in some ways, prioritizing my female friendships is a way to invest in me and allow me to be a better person for those people that I love most. Now, it is really, really tough to make the time. And I think, as dumb as it sounds, we have to have a system for it, right? Or we have to be intentional about it. And so, if that means that once a month you're dedicating to that, or one time, like one lunch a month, looking at it and actually putting it on your calendar and protecting that time as much as possible. And then I also think where a lot of us struggle is we're just going through the motions, or we're living like our calendar is like pushing us to different things. And when we actually really look at our time, we might be wasting a lot of time on social media or on things that don't matter. And if we remove some of those things to make time for things that are important, are really great. And I know we're going to talk about it, but what allows each of us to connect is that in many ways we have an asynchronous relationship through Marco Polo, which we'll talk about. But that is something that I would much rather sit and listen to a video from you guys than like doom scroll on social media. So we have found ways to stay connected, even though we are in 3 different states and different time zones and all sorts of other things. But having you in my life makes me more fulfilled, and it makes me a better wife and mom. And so, of course, I need to prioritize that and not feel guilty about prioritizing it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We all are more whole, like as you said, like we're more whole human beings when we invest in those friendships, because they're beautiful, right? They're supposed to be life-giving. Those are the types of, that's the type of friendship that we're really addressing and talking about. So what about the woman who feels stuck, and she doesn't feel like she has that, connection, or she doesn't feel like she has her small or even big tribe? Sara, can you give us, I don't know, any thoughts or ideas or pro tips on how to meet other like-minded women?
Yeah, I think we have to be intentional about it. We have to know, this sounds silly, but I read this a while back on even finding like any relationship, whether it be like with a man, I'm single, or female friendships, to make a list of like what are the things that we're looking for? Like what is going to drive us to know someone? And you like we met at an event. And so it's events, whether it's in the dental industry or outside. There's so many online women masterminds that I've met female friends from that aspect. And then you have your local communities, church, coffee shops. I was at a coffee shop. My town's really small a couple of weeks ago, and a woman sat beside me and she was like, I just see you typing away. Do you mind talking to me for a few minutes? And I was like, sure, I would actually love to. And so now we've met for coffee again. So, and it's you have to be intentional, but not just with meeting people, but the after part. Like, it's nice to meet someone, but if we don't, like what Josey said, make time or schedule a date, put it on our calendar, then it kind of falls to the wayside. And a month, 2 months, 3 months goes by because as women, we're busy. We're like, oh yeah, I met that person and I haven't seen him again.
Yeah. Josie, do you have anything like any other kind of thoughts or practical ideas on how, if we're searching for some really strong female friendships, like where to begin?
Yeah, I love Sarah's like putting it getting clear what you want, but I think actually just putting yourself out there. That's what the interesting thing is social media allows us to believe that people are having lots of fun or doing lots of things together. And yet we know that the world is lonelier than it ever has been. So I think that it's even like just putting it out there like, hey, I'm looking for some good female friends. I'm looking for people who are interested in this, that, or the other. And I think that as you look at your relationships, I bet if you sent a text message and started the conversation or reached out to somebody that you've been close to in the past and just say, I'm looking to have deeper connection and a greater relationship. I've missed you. Could we catch up sometime or could we talk about it? And I think that a lot of people are craving it and it's kind of just being brave and asking for it and putting it out there, and you'd be surprised what comes to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I love that. And I personally actually met some very, very extraordinary friends on social, online.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's years later, I get to meet them in person at an event or something. And you feel so it's actually pretty incredible. So I know that, social gets a bad rap and we all I mean, probably at times in our life we spend too much time on it and we all take breaks from it, and those are good things and healthy. But I would agree, I personally have connected with such extraordinary people that it's something to really consider. Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, the first takeaway, if you're looking to find new friendships in your 40s, is just explore new communities, whether that's events or people that are with shared hobbies. I mean, there's like a club for everything in your local community, at least where I am, there is. We have pickleball, like what are you interested in, So, and one thing I would mention is there are also multiple communities for women in dentistry. There is the Dental Entrepreneur Woman, DO. And I know for me, that has been such an incredible tribe the past few years. There's women in DSO, there's mommy dentists in business, like whatever your flavor, whatever your personality or interests are, I bet that there's a group of women in dentistry that want to connect with you and include you. So I want to segue into talking about prioritizing quality time. Since time is everything, let's discuss how it can also be our biggest hindrance to friendships when life gets busy, and just kind of some easy ways to stay engaged with our friends on a regular basis. I think sometimes that we overcomplicate things and feel that we can't have real, authentic relationships unless we are going away on a girls' weekend or once a week, you're having dinner with that same friend. And I'm right now, this season of life, I actually I'm prioritizing other things in my life that I don't feel like I have time, and maybe this is like therapy. I'm getting confession right now. I want to do a girls' weekend with you guys next year, and I want to prioritize that. I guess what I'm saying is when you feel very like your time is limited and you do have so much going on, what are some ways that you can connect on a regular basis without it being a girls' weekend or dinner? So Sara, since you started our Marco Polo officially between Josey, myself, and you, I just would love to hear from you. Can you speak to the power of a simple app like that and the difference it's made for us connecting on a weekly basis?
Well, Marco Polo, I think, has saved us, all three of us, in numerous occasions. We started with Voxer after a trip we were all on before 2020. That I think it was end of 2019. And what I prefer about Marco Polo is I can see y'all's faces. So when we're talking, and I can see you guys, and so I can see now. I think in the beginning not so much, but now I can see your facial expressions and what you really mean. We've cried on Marco Polo. We've laughed. We all have, we've been sad and happy and just melancholy. And it's one of those things that I know for me, I can pick up Marco Polo anytime. I've done it early in the morning when I can't sleep and just listen to you guys talk. And it's where we can be open and vulnerable and just you're just talking and knowing that somebody's going to listen and give advice or say way to go. You guys through Marco Polo are like my biggest cheering squad. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this, and y'all are like, woohoo, like go Sarah. And it's so rewarding, but also we can be open and honest. We call it the vault. And in the vault, what we say stays. So it's Marco Polo has a lot of secrets and a lot of trials and tribulations and the good things too that we've been through. And I think without Marco Polo, like if we would have stayed on Voxer, it would have just fallen by the wayside. But Marco Polo, I mean, we've all Marco Poloed in the car, on walks after the gym, early in the morning, at night, in hotel rooms, while we're traveling. And it's just something easy to pick up and say, oh, I need to tell Josey and Joanna this, or I haven't listened to Marco Polo in a minute. Let me go back and listen to what they've said. And it's made a world of difference, I know, in my life personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you also mentioned Voxer because my sister lives in Indiana and she's not like a big fan of videos. She has a
Mm.
bunch of kids and it just is like, it's not her thing. So Voxer has saved my relationship with her for, I don't know, I think we've been on it over 8 years. And that is literally every week how we communicate and speak. And if we didn't have that, I mean, our relationship would not be as connected. Josey, I know that you spend a lot of time, you're out in Utah, so I know you spend a good amount of time traveling to and from the airport and just driving in general. How do you make the most of your time in the car when it comes to your relationships and friendships?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it just was happening naturally that, I've got this drive and I'm like, oh, it's time to update Sarah and Joanna, because sometimes you guys will go back and forth and I'm like, I haven't been in, I got to get in and update it. And so I just happen to travel enough that I'm always like, well, I'm headed to the airport again. And so here's, here is my update. But yeah, I think that it's now everybody listening, we try to keep it safe, like put it up on the thing and not look at it. So the view might be a little weird and we have to prop it up, but we're not looking directly at it. We try to drive very safe. But I think it's just capturing these little in between moments that allows me to listen or to respond and to share. And it's because yes, I'm a busy mom, a busy wife, a busy entrepreneur, but this is also very important to me. And so I try to grab those little moments when I can to share things with each of you. But it's those ground rules that Sarah referred to that make it right, right? It is that vault. I was actually thinking about this, and we started this in March of 2020, right after the world shut down. And it got me through COVID in so many ways, and I think I also have just considered even my own life transitions. Much of the time when I was processing really difficult emotions, like a failed business partnership or a transition out of a corporate job or starting my own business, you guys were a very safe place for me to think through and to share my ideas. And oftentimes that's where I got the courage to make the leap, was like, you know what, these ladies believe in me, and I that means a lot to me, so I think I can do this. And I think I need to go get the paid Marco Polo version so that I can get all those videos, because they delete after a year. But if we reviewed some things that have happened over the last 4 years, I think we'd be amazed.
I think we would too.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know all three of us feel that same way. That literally got us through the pandemic because and I think another kind of unspoken rule is we never put pressure on one another to respond.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing, because then there's no expectations. It's just, hey, we're here if you need us, and vice versa. It's just been extraordinary. It's not like, it's something you've got to check off. It's just like, no, jump on and when you can.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I meant to say that, Joanna, and that is the no pressure, no ego thing is amazing, and I think that's a big reason why it works.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to what Josie said too about safety in the car. We all are very safe in the car, so much so. Joanna, do you remember a couple of years ago when I sent you the little car hookup so that you could put it up in the car? And I was like, I put in a Marco Polo, Joanna, I'm sending you a special gift. And it arrived a couple of days later, so you had the magnet.
Yes, yes. And that was awesome, Sarah. Thank you so much. Safety first. That's right.
Safety first.
Yeah. And one kind of I would say like practical takeaway that you can do that if you're very system driven and you know you prefer let's say maybe a recurring calendar reminder might be good for you. Schedule your friend time in. If you're constantly glued to your calendar and then just do that and keep that appointment as you would any other appointment with someone else. And I think for me, it's become a habit. So now when I walk between 8 and 10,000 steps a day. I check Marco Polo. I see, you know what I mean? I get caught up. If I have a moment to respond, I do. And then the same thing with Voxer. So I think for me, it's just like when I walk, that's actually when I connect with nature, God, and my friends, my girls. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
But I think the recurring calendar invite could be a quick, just like little system pro tip that you could do and just remind yourself of the importance of consistency, you know?
That's a pro tip for moms too. When your kids are in college, I did that Paisley and Allie's first couple of years. Every night at 6 o'clock, check in with Paisley when she was in college, and then it became check in with Paisley and Allie, and then it turned into FaceTimes that just FaceTime at that time. So pro tip for moms too.
I love that. I love that.
What I love about what we're saying is that it doesn't have to look like having coffee together the same day every week, and it doesn't have to look like scheduling a vacation or scheduling a dinner. It doesn't have to look like, sometimes I think our expectation of what a good girlfriend, or little girl gang looks like. And I think the beauty of technology and social media and other things is that it just can look in any way you want it to, and it can fit your life and the season that you're in.
Totally. Yeah, because all three of us live out of state. I mean, we're not, we don't live in the same state. We're all over the country. I don't know. They're probably Sarah, I don't know. Sarah and Josey, you might top me with travel. I'm probably traveling once a month, but we're all busy and all over the place. And so it's kind of fun that you can be anywhere and just jump on these apps and know that for me, it's comforting knowing that you guys are there, even if you're, out of the country or wherever. So I'd love to move on to kind of the final segment, which is, I don't know, I would say pivotal to any type of true vault type community that you might be seeking, or those kind of relationships that are where you can be truly vulnerable. And so, Sarah, we mentioned this earlier, but you have raised two fabulous young women. And so this question seems fitting for you. Since most of us as women are external processors, I believe one of the most important aspects of a connected friendship is definitely verbal communication and sharing honestly. So can you talk about the role of vulnerability in deepening connections and fostering trust in friendships?
Yeah, first, thank you for saying that about Paisley and Allie. I'm proud of my girls. With vulnerability, it's hard as women to trust other women to kind of keep our secrets. But I also feel like if we aren't vulnerable, even just a little bit when we meet someone, they don't see who we really are, like at our core. And if someone's not seeing who we are at our core, then they really don't know who we are. And then also, we have to keep up like this front of who we were pretending to be. I was coaching a team member a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about vulnerability, and she said, Sarah, being vulnerable makes my skin itch and my armpit sweat, and it's just not something that I like to do. And I was like, you know what, it's hard for all of us, and it's hard to kind of step into that and then have enough trust that the women that you're talking to are going to hold what you say kind of in the palm of their hand and keep it there so that it becomes something precious. And my advice is you just kind of have to do it. And we have to talk and listen really well to what our friends are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Josey, vulnerability can be scary and tricky at times. And the three of us, as I know has come up in our Marco Polos, but we've shared some very open, raw moments over the years with a lot of highs and a lot of lows. Can you speak to the importance of showing up as your true self in friendships and how it really can empower others to do the same?
Yeah, I think that, it's this idea that we can only meet others as much as they've met themselves. And so sometimes you will find people that have done a lot of deep work personally and have come to accept themselves and have come to recognize, just like be comfortable in their own skin. And I think that those are the relationships where we can be really vulnerable. And sometimes there will be times or people that we're trying to be vulnerable with, but they haven't done the deep interpersonal work, right? They may not be in integrity with themselves or dealt with some of their demons. And so sometimes, we're trying to be vulnerable, but that person may not be ready for it. And so I think that part of what this is we I'm somebody who I'm the opposite of the team member that Sarah's talking about. I think that vulnerability is a core value of mine, and I just can't not be who I am. And when I feel something, I have this desire to share it because it allows me to process it. And so I need other people like you who are vulnerable and will, we can reciprocate that. And so anyway, I just want to say that we have to like almost like test it a little bit. And maybe it's not like I'm just met somebody and I'm telling them like the deep dark secrets, right? But can I try being vulnerable with them to say, you know what, I'm feeling like maybe a little confusion in my life, or my vision isn't totally clear, or I just feel like I'm struggling with this, and seeing how that person might react to it, and can we trust them with a little bit of like baby vulnerability. I don't think that our friendship, like we didn't jump right into, oh my gosh, my life is falling apart and I'm really struggling here. We developed that trust over time. And so that's what it really comes down to, is we do have to have time under tension with people, and they have to show that we can trust them and they can be that vault. And so, I think the greatest way to find a good friend is to be a good friend. Be the vault, keep the secrets, have integrity, ask good questions of people. I think sometimes we're so busy talking about ourselves that when we pause and just ask questions, we allow somebody else to share, then it gets easier for us to share. They're more interested. So lots of different things in there, but it takes time, and to have good friends, you need to be a good friend.
Yeah. Literally, I have so many thoughts on that. One of my favorite things you just said was that vulnerability, it's a process of building trust over time. And you should actually not just leap into it 100% with someone who's new, test the water and share, like you're saying, maybe something a little more general you're struggling with before you tell them, this super, super kind of maybe something you're still healing from. Do you know what I mean? I actually this last year had an experience where I felt like I was really I felt like I did have a strong friendship, or at least a pretty good friendship with this person, and shared something really vulnerable, and that I was still healing from, and I felt like it really backfired, and it's been a big learning lesson for me, and something that I've grown from, definitely. And that not everyone is created equal, in the sense of, like you're saying, whether they've done the work, whether they have the maturity to be able to even handle what you want to share with them, or whatever that piece of vulnerability is.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you went through that. Many of us have gone through that, right? Where we're just like, oh man, and now I feel really exposed, and it's really hard to feel exposed. But at the same point, like, I think the encouragement is, sometimes we want to totally retreat. And we were like, we're never going to tell anybody anything. And I think that part of life is learning, who can I tell and who can I not tell, and how might I do that differently. So let us learn from it, but not like have it, completely like put us in a little dark spot where we're just like the walls are up and we can't share at all with anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah, do you have any thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, I loved how Josie said you can only meet someone with where they are right then, and also the time under tension, which is so true. So if we're speaking with someone and they have zero intention of being vulnerable with you, or even just getting to know you, then when you do have those conversations, like it's just like the bomb goes off and you're like, okay, so you're not the right person. Or you can say something to somebody and they don't get it because that's just not where they are or have been in their life. And also to the time under tension, we've done that. It's been 5 years. God, y'all, it's been 5 years that we've been on. I know that we've been doing this and we've built that trust. And I think we've each kind of like taken a step into the really vulnerable end. And I love how I get on Marco Polo and I'll hear, y'all, this is for the vault. Like, this is really going into the vault. This is closed. I'm going to say this. And I know I've done this before where I've done that and then deleted it because you still get scared. And then you're like, oh no, it's Joanna and Josie. Like, I know I can be, and I know I can tell them like exactly how I'm feeling right now, and they're going to hold it. And so we've worked for that. Like, it just doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen because we chose this person. Is because we built the longevity of it, and we're constantly working on our relationship with each other and then our relationship with ourselves too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as I'm just like reflecting on all the walks I've taken, or even the, Marco pulling you guys like in the car. And it has been over 5 years, this gradual progression of, and I've had some all of us are, if you're in your 40s and you're listening to this and you're a woman and a mother, you've had some big things happen in your life. All of us have. And I had a really big thing happen in my life a couple years ago, and you two were top of my list as far as I know I can share this and it's going to be safe. I'm going to be okay. This isn't going to backfire on me. They're not gonna, you know what I mean, shout this out to the world. And so thank you both for that. Thank you for being just two of the most exemplary character-driven women that I know in all of dentistry. So I can personally speak to that.
Yeah, right back at you. It's a threesome here, right back at you.
Oh gosh, I appreciate you both just being willing to talk about a subject today that's outside of dentistry, and just encourage these women listening to take initiative with their friendships moving forward. I want to just recap 3 actionable takeaways from our conversation today. First, it would be explore joining a new group or finding that community, whether it's women in dentistry or outside. Be open to meeting new people. That would be the first takeaway. Second, if you are a systems driven person, which I know most of us on this call are, or habit, kind of habit driven, set up a recurring calendar reminder for a friend date and commit to that like you would any other important appointment. Last, reach out to a friend and have a heart-to-heart conversation and share something maybe you've been holding back, or maybe, as Josie said, test the water and make sure that that friend is safe for you, a safe place, and can be that vault. And I just want to thank you both so much for being on the Story Project podcast. But before we sign off, I know that you both have just exciting things going on, and I wanted to really make sure that people know where they can follow you. First, share what you have going on, what's happening in the future if you want to, anything fun or new, and then also how people can follow you on social media or just connect with you.
Sara, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm excited to say that I was just recently this month promoted to CEO of Dental Flix, which has been very exciting. And a little nerve-wracking. I've told you guys that. Like, it's like nervous when you get such a big promotion. Currently I'm working with partners and our content creators. We're helping our content creators kind of get their message out and get out in the world. And on a personal side, Paisley and Noah are moving to Georgia. And so now Allie and I are moving to Charlotte by the end of the year, which is also a little nerve-wracking. And we've got travel coming up. And so we're going to do it in October or November or December. And an easy way to find me would be on social media, sarah.m.ritchie on Instagram. And then also, I mean, you can email me, sarah@dentalflix.com.
Love
Awesome.
that. So excited for you, Sara.
I know.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, Sarah.
Thank you.
She was, I got to see her last week at IntelliCon. And so it was the first time we've seen each other in person since COVID shut the world down. And Joanna and I have not been in the same room, but we will be in a few weeks. And so Sara was just glowing, and she was like working the trade show floor and like chatting with everybody. And so it was really fun for me to get to see her in person, because I felt like it's like she walks the door and you're like, oh yeah, she's here. She's ready. She's looking good. She's feeling good. It was amazing. So yeah, I'm in a little bit of a really exciting transition, which I am just 2025 is going to be a big launch for me, and it's going to be a ton of fun. And so it's been a really incredible year, just kind of putting my head down and serving my clients well, but really just exploring opportunities and asking myself how I want to re-emerge from 2024 and how I want to show up in the world. I've referred to this as my chrysalis year. And so re-emerging in 2025. And you can find me anywhere on any social channel, Josey Sewell. If you spell it right, it's JOSEYSEWELL. You can find me. You can email me, josie@joseysewell.com. Dr. Eric Roman and I are partnering together, and we are working on some incredible, fun programs that we want to launch next year. We know that we want to serve associate dentists. We know we want to support clinical directors. And what I really have a passion for is helping grow leaders inside the dental industry. And so I'm really excited for the opportunity to help people become authentic, empowered leaders. And so more on that. Be watching for 2025. My husband keeps telling me that I need to like pull a Taylor Swift and like drop something on midnight on December 31st. And so we may be having a really fun New Year's Eve party. We'll see.
Amazing.
You totally I'm so down for that. Yes, yes.
Oh gosh, Sarah and I are cheering you on, Josey. We're so proud
Absolutely.
of you. And I cannot wait for everything to launch and be live to the world. You are both just bright lights everywhere you go. And our profession is better for it, and the women in dentistry are better for it. So thank you both.
Thank you, Joanna, for what you do to champion women and to bring stories like this. And, you know, I just am constantly like, oh, on those days when I struggle, I'm like, just be brave like Joanna. And so thank you for being an example for Sara and I.
Thank you. Love
I'm
you.
just going to copy what Josey said. Absolutely. I agree 100%.
You both are amazing. So I'll take a walk later and we can Marco Polo about this. We could do our little recap on our podcast.
Yes, yes.
Well, audience, if you are listening or watching, because this is a video-driven podcast, we'll have a full version out on YouTube. And and obviously you can follow me on Joanna F. Scott on Instagram. And we'll be releasing all of this in September, which is really exciting. For me, that's the month I'm going to be focusing all of my content on how to nurture your female friendships. And so I just appreciate Sara and Josey for just joining me on this episode today and just sharing all their wisdom. I only have one request from you. You can subscribe to the Story Project podcast and leave a review if one of my brilliant guests said something that you love, which I'm sure they did. This podcast is for women leaders in dentistry, so feel free to share this episode with all of your friends in the profession. Let's be fearless together, ladies, and we'll see you next time.